Hey friends, so today I'm working on a baby Yoda. So I looked at my stash to see what colors I have, and I have this Super Saver Green by Red Heart that is a frosty green. I think that matches pretty good. And then I have this brown that I believe is loops and thread from Michaels. It's one of those huge balls that they had, I guess, a while back. So I'll set that to the side. And I'm going to be creating this on my Addi Express. Alright, and to get started, I'm going to thread my machine up. So, I'm going to start here at my first black needle. I'm going to put a clamp on here to give my yarn a little bit of weight. So, to cast on, I'm going to weave in and out, behind and in front of every peg, all the way around. Alright, so now we're back to the beginning. I'm going to put my yarn in my yarn carriage, reset my counter, and for this first row, I'm going to go really slow to make sure my yarn does catch under every needle. I'm just pulling out some yarn here. Okay, and I'm going to get my machine where it's comfortable for me. There's row 1. And then I'm just going to continue to go around, and I'm going to do 36 rows for the head. Okay, I finished my green 36 rows, so I'm going to snip this. I'm going to leave just a bit of a tail, and now I'm going to change to my brown. So, let me see. I'm going to have to unwind some off of this ball, but I'm going to lay my yarn in there and hold it with this. So I'm holding the yarn like this. And okay, now I'm going to loosely tie this, and I'm going to untie it and retie it tighter later. So I know I want to do 40 rows of my brown. So I'm going to unwind some yarn off this big huge ball. I couldn't pull from the center because I never could find the center. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to get started. Pull this in where it's more comfortable for me. Okay, I've made it to 40 rows. So I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a tail. And I'm going to thread my tail onto a tapestry needle. Alright, so I can take it out of the cartridge. And I'm just going to start picking up my stitches. It may be kind of hard to see what I am doing, but I'm just taking my needle and going up under the stitch and sliding it up on my needle. And I'm just going to do this all the way around. Okay. Now, we have our fabric off of the machine, so we can take it and stretch our stitches out. Okay, so I want to turn it inside out and find where I joined my colors. I'm going to untie that. And then I'm going to tie it back tighter, giving it a little tug. Okay. All right, now we'll clip those ends. All right, that's what we have so far. Okay, so I have my outside layer made, the brown and the green, and I made an inside layer that I'm going to stuff. I always make an inside layer for my big projects because it just gives them a more finished, professional look, a thickness, and you won't be able to see any stuffing through it or anything like that. And I love the sturdiness and the just overall look that it gives. So I'm going to lay this one to the side and start stuffing my first layer. This will be the inside layer. I'm not going to close this all the way up yet because I know that I want to open it back up to stuff it. So I'm just going to kind of barely close that a little bit. And I'm going to roll this down some and start stuffing. And the way I stuff my projects is I get my stuffing, I fluff it up really well and let air get all up in that stuffing, and then take a small amount and push down and spread it out in there. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing on the inside. I put my stuffing in. Okay, and this is what I'm doing. When I put my stuffing in there, I reach in and I'm opening, pushing it out to the sides of the project so it just doesn't go in the middle. It spreads out and it creates a tunnel inside, and then I take more stuffing and I feel that tunnel. This will give your projects a more firm, fuller look. So I'm just doing my fingers like this, opening it up, pushing the stuffing out. And then I just take some more stuffing and I push it into the tunnel that my hand created. All right. And you can make your projects look more rounder and such by doing that. And then sometimes after I stuff this all the way to the beginning, then I'll come back and add a little more stuffing here to give that more rounded look also. Okay, so I'm going to continue to stuff my project and I will come back for the next step. Okay, I have my inside layer all stuffed. You can see it is stuffed very firmly. And it is, you know, quite large. So I'm going to take I still have my strands here just in case I need to untie it, you know, loosen it up for anything. Okay, I'm going to take my outside layer and I'm going to put it on top. Just going to work it down and stuff that inside down in there. And you can see it kind of looks like it's not going to fit, but it's going to. I'm not going to close the head up too much because I got to add the eyes. Okay, and then I'm just going to work it around and make sure that it's fitting on here very well. And that my brown is kind of, you know, the same all the way around. Not out of whack. And it looks good. Oh, this is going to be really cute. Okay. So I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to cut some of this off because I don't need that much of a tail. And I'm going to take this inside layer, the tail of it, and close up this inside layer. So I'm just running my yarn through there, and I'm going to go back through the loop before I pull it tight. And that kind of just ties it off. And I'll do that just probably about 2 times there. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. I'm just poking that in to close it off a little. And I'm going to do it twice. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this needle and run it up through come out somewhere on the side there and snip it off. All right. And my bottom layer, I can go ahead and close up my bottom layer. because I'm very happy with the way everything looks. So I'm going to go ahead and close my bottom layer off. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail for that, and I'm going to do it a little bit different since it is the outside layer and it can be seen. I'm going to pull it tight as I can, and then I'm going to tie it off the same way I did the inside layer. But now I'm also going to go around and just pick up a couple of stitches every now and then. And now I'm back to where I started. So I'm going to pull that really tight to close up that hole and tie this off. Okay. And we'll tie it off again. Okay. And maybe one more time. We'll tie it off one more time just because. Okay. Excuse me. All right, and I'm going to take this tail and just poke it in and come out somewhere here on the edge and then snip my yarn. And then that tail will just work up and pop back up inside it. Okay, so there we have our body. Now I'm going to take some brown yarn, a strand of this brown, and I want a big enough piece that's going to go all the way around it and have enough to tie with. So you want it larger than your piece. I'm going to thread this. Okay, I'm going to look at my body here around the neckline and figure out what I want to be the back and what I want to be the front. So I'm looking at it overall, like what would be good for the face. And so I think I'm going to pick this side for the face. Really, both of my sides look really good, so either way I go, I'm all right. So I'm going to take my brown yarn on my thread, on my needle here, and I'm just going to start going around, weaving in and out. Okay, and then I'm going to leave some out there. And I'm going to continue to do this all the way around. Okay, so I'm back to the beginning. And now we are going to tie this off. You want to tie it really, really, like really as tight as you can. And then you might even wrap around and tie it again. So tie that off and we'll be back. So I have this tied off, but I need to get rid of these ends here. So I'm not going to just snip them off. I'm going to thread them on my needle. I was going to try to do both at the same time, but I'm going to have to do one at a time. Okay, and then I'm going to go up here and go in a stitch that's right close to where the knot is, and I'm just going to poke this through and pull my yarn through and do the same thing with the other strand. And just come out somewhere. Just pull your yarn through it, okay? And then we're just going to snip these off, and that hides the tails in there. Okay, so next we're going to add some eyes. I have these 15mm eyes that I purchased at Hobby Lobby, but you can order animal eyes and doll eyes and such online, and you may get, you know, better prices or a bigger selection. So I'm going to pop out 2 of these in the backs. Alright. And now I'm just going to kind of look at my Yoda and just imagine where I want his eyes. Remember, he's going to have ears. So just kind of play around. Place your eyes somewhere. And hold him up, you know, and look at him. And decide where you want your eyes. So you may have to like place them in and move them around a couple of times. And just make that decision. What looks best to you. And what you're happy with. Okay, I placed my eyes on there, but honestly I didn't put the backs on yet because I might want to move them after the next part. So we'll see. I'm going to lay him over to the side because we're finished with that section right now. And, well, I'll tell you what we're going to make. I'm sorry. Now we're going to make the collar that goes around the neckline here. So that's what we're fixing to work on. Alright, so I'm going to use a long loom. So, okay, so we have our long loom, but I'm only going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pegs. And I have a little rubber band right there to let me know not to go past that. So I'm going to make a slip knot and place it on this anchor peg. Okay. Now I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to go up right here. Like here's the first, I'm going in between this peg on the end and on the inside of that top peg. And then I'm going to come down and around peg 1 there. And then go up to the second peg on that side. And come over on this side. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Down to the 6th peg. Okay. So I'm down here to the 6th peg. And once I wrap around this peg, we've got to come back and go that way. So I'm going to go around it and come up around this one. Okay, now I'm going to go straight down on this one to loop this one in, and then go round. And that's the only one you go straight down on for that. Okay, and just keep going. All right, so we're back to the beginning there, and I forgot to get my pick. All right, so I'm just going to hold this one, hold that yarn over there, and I'm going to pick up both strands, because I am using 2 strands of a number 4 yarn, and bring them over. Okay, and I need to do that on both sides. All right. Okay, and so I'm going to take my working yarn, and I'm coming kind of straight up on it. Push all your loops down. Okay, and then I'm going to come around it and come over and go around peg 1, and then reach over to peg 2 and come around. You have to play with this for a couple of times to get the hang of it good. And this time I'm going to hold my working yarn off to this side. Okay. Yeah, my yarns are... Okay, so I'm holding my yarn off to that side, and I'm going to bring my loops over. Oops, I knocked one of them off. This wasn't supposed to come off. So I'm just going to slip it back on. And same thing, just go down both sides of your little loom here. Okay, and then push all your loops down. Get your working yarn, and I'm going to pull some out because I didn't have enough pulled out there and it was getting a little tight. Okay, so I have my working yarn. I'm going to come around that last peg. Come around that last peg. Bring it over. Oh, wait, I'm going to come straight down and then go around this peg and then go around every peg. Okay, and I'm just going to keep doing that until I get a good amount of length. And then when I get, a good amount of length, I'll just try wrapping it around Yoda's neck and see if it's ready to fit. And I'll probably come back and record that. So just keep going down, back and forth until you get a good amount of length coming out of the bottom of your loom. Okay, just push all your loops down and then work back again at some point. Well, right now probably. I'm just going to take my anchor, loosen the anchor's peg there, and pull that through on the bottom. All right, we're ready to get going now. As you're making your collar here. You might want to just try it around your Yoda till you get it to the length where you can make it about like this. I didn't say there was a number of rows to do on this because your stuffing may not be the same as mine. So you have to make yours to fit your Yoda. Okay, and also I wanted to say that if you don't have a long loom and can't make this, you can make this on a different loom, a different kind of stitch. You could also make this on the small Addi. You just won't have texture and it would all look the same. I wanted this texture and that's why I chose to use this loom. But you could just make a long scarf on the small Addi and wrap that on here if that, would be happy with you. Okay, so next we're going to come back and bind off on this. Okay, I have my scarf at the right length, so I'm going to take a loop off of this side, bring it over and put it on this peg, but then I'm going to reach down on the inside there, pulling this out, reach down the inside and get the loop that was originally on that peg, and bring it over, and we're going to place it on this peg up here, pull it out and reach in and get the loop that's on there and pull it up all the way, and then just keep doing that, going from side to side. You're picking up, each time you do it, you pick up the loop that's already on there and come up inside that loop. Okay. We'll keep going, we're almost done. Okay. Pick up that loop. Okay, we only got two more, so keep going. Oops. I didn't mean for that to come off quite yet, but I'm going to make it work, because this one would have came over on top of this. So I'm just gonna push that loop up in there. All right. Now I'm gonna cut my tail, just leaving enough to kind of weave in there. And before I pull it tight, I'm going to stretch this out and then pull it tight to lock that in. You can take it off the loom, and I'm going to thread both excuse me. I'm going to thread both strands on this needle and then just come up through a stitch there. And I'm going to tie this off. Okay, and then I'm going to run my needle up in here, kind of weaving it in and out through stitches to hide my tail. Okay. And I'll pull that up and then just snip off the extra on the tail. And that should just pop in there. Yes. Okay, so now let's look at this and see what it looks like on our Yoda. I still haven't tied off my top yet because I might change my eyes. Oh, we have our tail at the beginning. Same thing. Just thread that and weave it in, just like we did the other one. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just see. Now I'm laying it down kind of like this, and I'm laying this one on top of it. And I want this corner and this corner to meet, and then I'm just going to sew it up along this, and that's not quite enough. If I had left a longer tail, that would have worked, or even if I had left a longer tail on the other. But I'm just going to add in a piece of yarn, a single strand, and just sew this right here together. Okay, but first we got to make some arms and ears. But now we know exactly how it's going to look. And we're going to make some arms that's going to go right under this coat collar. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to make arms for our baby Yoda. You're going to need your green and brown, your flower loom, and your loom pick. So make a slip knot and place it on the anchor peg. And we're going to do the drawstring casting. And if you need this slower, there is a video on my YouTube channel that explains that. Look in tutorials. So we're going to weave in and out of these pegs all the way around. Weave in and out. Okay, we're back to peg 1. So we're going to push all these down. We're going to go behind peg 1 and then just lay the yarn. And you can do this a few at a time, or you can go all the way around. I go all the way around back to peg 1 and wrap it super good just to kind of hold my yarn. And then we're going to, every other peg has 2 yarns, and so we're going to bring the bottom yarn over the top and over the peg all the way around. Okay, this is the cast on. Now we're ready to start row 1. Okay, so I'm going to undo that where I just wrapped on peg 1 as my placeholder. You can see peg 1 still does not have any yarn on it. So what we're going to do is just lay the yarn over peg 1 and go to peg 2, and we're going to U-knit. And to U-knit, you just hold the yarn, not super tight, but just kind of hold it in a U position and knit. Half wrap it and knit. Half wrap, knit. That is a U-knit. And there is videos on my YouTube that explain all the all the loom knit stitches. So we just go all the way around, and this is row 1. And now we're going to start row 2. All right, and now we're going to do 3, 4, and 5 for the green. So I'll meet you back up when I have finished row 5. I've completed 5 rows of my green. Don't forget to take your slip knot off the anchor peg. I'm just going to push that in the inside and pull it through the bottom here and just let it hang loose. Okay, so we need to change colors to our brown. So cut your yarn, just leaving a little bit of a tail to tie with, and then get your brown. And tie that in. And you'll make sure it's, slide it down, make sure it's close to the peg. And then you can tie again, and I'm actually going to tie twice. And then I'm just going to snip that. All right. And now we're going to just continue to U-knit with the brown. Okay, and we're going to do 20 rows of the brown. I'm just going to give you a little tip. When I'm U-knitting like this, and I got to do like 20 rows, say, when I get to row 10 of the brown, I'm going to put a little stitch marker in there. So when I go to count my rows again, I don't have to count those 10 over and over. I can just start at 10 and then count, you know, either from 1 to 10 for the next set or 11 to 20. So we're going to do 20 rows. So I did 1. We've got 19 more rows, and I will meet you up then. Okay, I completed 10 rows of the brown. So I'm just going to stick a stitch marker on here somewhere on that 10th row. And then I don't have to recount those 10 anymore. So from there up, I can just count 10 from 11 through 20. So I've got 10 more rows to go. Okay, I completed my 10 rows. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out. And I'm going to go ahead and do the Drawstring Bind Off. And I'm not going to leave a super long tail on this one, because on my other one, I did leave a super long tail. So on one, leave a really long tail, and one of them, a not so long tail. Well, looking at that, I better leave a long tail on this one. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it a couple of times here to leave a really long tail. Okay, so do the drawstring gathered bind off, where you just scoop up the tail. Scoop up the tail and bring it up through all the loops all the way around the peg. Okay, and then I'm just going to pop these loops off my pegs. All right, so next we just stretch out our stitches, get everything stretched out. I'm going to close up the hand. And I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle and close up that end good and tie it off. There's a little gap on the side there, so I'm going to close that off and then tie it off this way one more time. All right, and then I'll just take my needle and just stick it in a stitch right next to my knot and just pull that out the side. Alright, so now I need to stuff my arm. So I'm going to roll it down just a little and get some stuffing, stretch it out. Okay, just get a little piece and get it down in that hand really well. Fill up all the space down there in that hand, so all the way to the bottom really well. Alright, and then just stuff your arm. Use small pieces and build on that. Just a little side note, you can see my pinky and my thumb. That's what my fingers do. See how white that is? And the color will return back in a few minutes. Alright, and once you've stuffed one, you want to make sure you stuff the next one to kind of match that. See, a little bit more will fit in there. I feel like that's a little too much stuffing, so I'm gonna see if these kind of look alike. I got a hair. This one feels a little bit firmer. Okay. So shape your arms up so that they look alike and they feel about the same stuffiness. Okay, and then decide which one has the shortest string. So that would be this one for me. And I'm going to thread my needle. And tie this off really good. Well, I didn't mean for that to happen, but okay. And I'm going to reach down, come through a stitch somewhere down lower, and just pull that and snip it off. So now this arm does not have a tail on it. The arm that does have a tail, we're not going to cut it, but let's close it off and leave your tail long. Okay, got that tied off well. Decide which side is your inside, and that's going to be my inside. So I'm going to take my yarn here, come down just a couple of stitches, and pull it out the side. That's going to be my inside of my arm. So the yarn's not coming from the top anymore. It's coming from the side. Okay, we'll just lay these aside for a moment. Now we can get our Yoda. For this part, I use a really long upholstery needle, and I got a package of needles from from Walmart in the sewing department for just a few bucks. I don't remember exactly how much they were, but not much. I think it was about 3 or 4 needles in there, and this was in it. So this is what I use. So I'm going to take my strand with the super long tail and thread this needle. Okay. Now I'm going to decide where my arms are going to go. And to help decide that, I am going to take this and kind of place it around, because I want to see how much of my arm is going to be covered up and how much is going to be sticking out. Okay. So, decide what is the absolute side of your project there, your Yoda. I'm going to go down about 5 stitches. And I'm going all the way across. I'm going to look to see where I want to come out over here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm just going to reach my needle all the way through and just keep trying to come out. All right. And then just kind of, feel that and see if it feels like it's even and straight across. I think I like how mine are placed. So I'm going to pull this needle all the way through. You can do this with a smaller needle. I've done plenty of them with a smaller needle. I've just found that once I found this big needle, that it's much easier for me to do it this way. Okay, then get your arm that goes on the other side. Decide which is your inside. So that's my inside. So I'm going to poke this and come through. With the inside facing the doll, the inside of the arm. Okay, and then I'm going to go poke back through 1 stitch below. And then I'm going to look over here and try to go back in that same hole that yarn came out of. And I'm going to go all the way across and come out the same hole that my yarn went in. And go back in my arm 1 stitch below. And I'm going to come all the way through the arm and come out. Decide which one of these is my tail. pull it through. So let me check it and make sure that I like where my arms are before I tie anything off. Yep, I think I like it. So I'm going to take this needle and go back through my arm and into the body. And I'm going to come out right here at the base of my neck in the brown. I'm going to pull that all the way through and take that needle off. Alright, so I'm going to get my other needle and thread this again. And now I'm going to pull it tight. Make sure it is pulled tight, but no, not so tight it's squishing the whole project. And I'm going to tie this off. And tie it off again. Probably about 3 times just because I want to make sure it is super good. Especially if anyone's going to be playing with the Yoda or anything. You want to make sure they're really secure. And then just take your needle and poke it through and come out somewhere lower on the side. And snip your yarn off. So now our Yoda has movable arms. All right. Now I'm going to take my collar here and try to thread this up. Okay. And then I'm just going to secure that with a knot, tying it off really well. Okay, and then I can take my tail and just kind of weave it up in there, come out somewhere up a little bit higher, and then snip this off. All right, now decide which is your front and which is your back of your collar. One side looks like the rose and the other side is that, so I want that side outward, so I'm going to put the rose here, and I'm going to put it like this. Okay, now I'm going to stick my needle all the way through this just to hold it in place for me, and I'm going to get some yarn the same color as the collar. Now we're going to sew that piece together. So I'm just going to come right here under this little first flap, and I'm going to just go up under a couple of stitches there. And I'm just going to securely tie this on. And I've tied it about 3 times here, and then snip off that little tail piece. Okay, so now we can sew our collar together. So I'm going to come from that, I'm going to come up through the bottom here. And then I'm going to get my two corners right here together. And I'm going to go down in a separate stitch away from that one. Just go through this layer and the bottom layer. Like this. And then just work your way up. Coming up from the bottom and going down from the top. Okay, I'm going to put just a couple extra stitches right there. And actually, I want to make sure that this is sewn well and that I'm happy with it. I'm going to come back and get a stitch on this because that looks undone right there. Although it's really probably not. I'm going to do one right here at the very top. And then I'm just going to work my way back down. I can take this out now. I'm going to work my way back down, getting closer to the edge. Okay. All right. Look at it and make sure you're happy with it. All right, so I'm going to come down here. Actually, I'm going to check and see if there's any little pieces that you want to secure together before you tie off. Okay, so I'm happy with mine, so I'm going to tie it off. And I'm going to tie it again. Okay, when it feels secure to you, then you can just run your yarn through some stitches, weave it in, pull it out somewhere, and then snip it off. All right, so I'm very pleased with that. And the arms. Now my eyes, I got to figure out where I want them to go for sure now. And I'm going to just grab two of my tapestry needles and kind of look at it. And remember, we hadn't closed this up yet because I got to put the backs on the eyes. So I'm just kind of looking at my head here, trying to decide. Let's see if that's too far apart. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me get a better look at it. Let me try that and see how the eyes look. Just keep playing with it until you are happy with your eyes placements. Okay, I have my eyes placed where I'm happy with them. So I need to put the backs on the eyes. So I have to open this up and go in through here. Okay. Now I want to push them down into my second layer there. Alright, so I'm going to close up my head. I'm going to check my eyes and make sure they're even and everything, because one of them could be stuck in the wrong place in the second level layer there. So I think they're good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close up my head. I'm going to cut some of this tail off because it's just too long to work with. Alright, so I'll go ahead and tie a knot here to close it, but then we're going to close it just like we did the bottom by going around and picking up a few stitches here and there. I'm just going around picking up a few stitches until I get back to where I started, and then I'm going to just pull this really tight and close it off. So you can close it off and then hold it, you know, where it's closed off good, and then you want to just tie it off. And do that a couple of times to make sure it's good and secure. All right. Now we are ready for the ears. All right. Okay, so we're getting close to being done, but now we need to make ears for our Yoda, and we're going to use 2 strands of the number 4 worsted weight yarn, and I'm going to make this Yoda ear the same way I make leaves. So, but I'm going to use 2 strands to give it the sturdiness. All right, I'm going to leave a tail to sew it on with, and then I'm going to make a slip knot, and place that on peg 1. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that tail coming through right there. Okay, so I want to E-wrap 8 pegs. So I'm just double wrapping the pegs one at a time. To get 8 pegs done. Okay. This is 7. All right, so this will be the 8th peg. All right, and so we're going to do about 20 rows, I believe. I'm going to pull me some yarn out. Okay, now that was the cast on. Okay, so now we're ready to do row 1. In the beginning of each row, we're going to skip the first peg. So this is row 1, and we're going to skip this peg. So we're going to go on over here, and we're going to E-wrap. E-wrap the rest of the pegs. Okay, for row 2, we're going to purl that row, but remember we're skipping the first peg. And the very last peg, we're not going to purl it, so hold up for that one. Okay, so the last peg, we are going to, I'm not sure what I did right here. Okay, the last peg we're going to E-wrap. So E-wrap that last peg. Okay. Now that was row 2. So row 3, we're going to E-wrap, and we're going to skip the first peg. Okay, and then this is row 4. We're going to E-wrap, skipping the first peg. Okay, but this last peg, we're going to E-wrap it. Okay, so now we're ready for row 5. And on row 5, we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to take this next to the last peg down here and place it over on the next peg over, and then take the last loop off and put it on the peg that loop was on. Okay, so now we're going to E-wrap, but remember to skip the first peg. Uh-oh. Okay, and then where you have the 2 sets of loops there, just lift them both over. Alright, now we need to decrease again, so we're going to do it on this end. Okay, and on this row we're going to purl. Okay, when you purl with the 2 sets of loops on there, just go through all of them, scoop up your yarn to purl, and then E-wrap the last peg. Okay, so now we're on row 7, and we're just going to E-wrap, skip the first peg, and E-wrap the rest. Okay, and so now we're on row 8, and we're going to purl, skipping the first peg. Okay, and then don't forget to E-wrap the very last peg. Okay, and then row 9, we're going to E-wrap. Okay, and now row 10, we're going to purl, skip that first peg. Okay, then E-wrap the last peg. Okay, so we're on row 11, and we're going to skip the first peg and E-wrap that row. Now row 12, we're going to purl, skip the first peg. Nope, I almost purled that last peg. I have to E-wrap the last peg. Okay. Now row 13, we're going to E-wrap. Okay. And 14, we're going to purl. And I need to pull out a little bit more yarn. This should be row 14. Okay, and E-wrap the last peg. Okay, so row 15, and we're going to do a decrease. Okay, and we're going to E-wrap this row. Okay, and row 16, we're going to decrease again. And this row is a purl. So we're going to purl, purl, and then E-wrap. Okay. Now we are on row 17, so we're going to E-wrap. Okay, row 18, we're going to purl. And E-wrap the last peg. All right, so now we're on row 19, and we're going to decrease. And this is an E-wrap. Okay, and now for row 20, we need to decrease again. And this would be a purl row, but since it's both on the end, we're going to E-wrap both of them. E-wrap, E-wrap. And then we're going to move a stitch over and E-wrap. Okay, now we need to cut a tail. It doesn't have to be too long, just enough to pull that through. Okay, take the ear off, and we're going to tighten up this point, and that is our Yoda ear. And I'm going to weave this end in. Oops, I'm going to tie that off. And then I'm going to thread my needle again. And I'm going to just weave in this end. Something like that. And then just clip it. Okay. And there we have a Yoda ear. So to sew that on our Yoda, you can see I've sewn one on already. So I'm just going to come over here to this other side. I'm going to go ahead and thread my long tail on my needle. All right. So I'm just going to take my Yoda ear, and I'm going to figure out how far that is from the eye. And I'm probably going to like just count the rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Mine's about 16-ish. You just play around with yours and get it to wherever you like it. All right, and then I'm just going to start. I'm going to kind of lightly stitch it on and then kind of see how it looks before I stitch it on real good. I'm just kind of going through and slip stitching here. All right, I'm just going to see how that looks. I think I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to just stitch it on a lot better. And you can manipulate your ears ever how you want to, bending them in or whatever you want to do for your ears to shape them up to look more Yoda-ish. Okay, and I'm just kind of whip stitching this on back here. I'm just going to kind of see how that's looking. I think I want to pull my Yoda ear up a little bit on the end. Alright, and then I was going to kind of start tying off and kind of just make sure it's the shape that you want it in. Okay. Now, check back and see if there's any places you need to stitch a little better. My yarn came off my needle. And then once you're happy with it and you feel like your ear is secured, then you can just tie off, and then just stick your needle in somewhere and come out, and then clip off your tail and let that pop into the head. And let me see. So I'm happy with my ears. So now we need to make a nose and some eyebrows there. All right, so I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so now we need to work on the eyebrow there. I have one on, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to leave enough tail to work with if I have to, work with it. So leave a little bit of a tail just to work with later. And I'm going to chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that one I'm going to pull through. And I am going to cut my tail long so I can sew with it. And I'll pull that one all the way through. Okay, then I'm going to thread my needle. Okay, now we need to place this above his eye. And I'm going to kind of go up under it and pick up a stitch and come in that first chain there. Okay. And then I'm kind of just pick up stitches and come through the chain. And you could pin these down with like push pin, not push pins, straight pins. These pins, you could push these down to hold that. All right, and then just pick up a stitch and come up through a chain. come up through that very last one. Kind of come up through your slip knot, I guess. Just so it is sewn down. Okay. Now I'm going to come back and do the same thing around the bottom of it. Pick up a stitch and come up through a chain. And just continue to do that all the way around. Okay. And then we need to tie off this last one. I'm going to kind of tie that one off. Okay, and then I'm going to come through there, come up under it, and come out somewhere on the side. And if that isn't far enough, you can go back into that same exact stitch, same exact place, and just go down a little further and snip your yarn. Okay, and then we need to do the same thing on this side. We need to get rid of this tail. But before we do that, let's make sure there's nothing on this end that needs to be sewn down. Mine is pretty good, so I'm happy with where mine is. If yours isn't quite tight enough right there or something, you can always, sew it again. I'm going to go ahead and tie that off there. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Push my needle in and come out somewhere lower. All right, and then let's see. And then we have our eyebrows on our Yoda. Okay, and next we need to fix a nose. Okay, so now we need to make a nose. So I'm going to make a slip knot and put it on the anchor peg. So I'm going to weave in and out and do a drawstring cast on. All right. Finish up your cast on. Okay, now for row 1, I'm going to U-knit around for yet row 1. Okay, now we're going to do that one more time for row 2. Alright, so this is the end of row 2, and that is the end of our project here. So we're going to take off our anchor peg, slip knot, and wrap this around. We're going to leave a little bit of a tail to work with, because we'll need to sew this on. And we're going to do a drawstring cast off. Okay, now we can just take this off. Now let's easily pull in our rows to drawstring that up. All right, and then you're gonna have, it's gonna try to turn inside out, so you're gonna have to push it and manipulate that to go the other direction. Okay, so I'm going to close up this end. Well, that's my longest tail. So I need to thread my needle and close this up right here. All right. I'm going to poke my needle through and come out the bottom. And I'm just going to tie these two strings together right here on the side. I'm going to tie this in 2 knots. And then I'm going to clip off my short strand, which is this one. Okay. Now to get my Yoda back over here. I think I'm just going to sew him on. Sew my nose on about right there. And what I'm going to do is just pick up a stitch and come up through the edge of this little nose. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. Okay. I apologize for the dog whining. I live in a house with 5 dogs. It's bound to happen in a video. 4 people and 5 dogs live in this house, so it's bound to happen. So I do apologize for that, but there's nothing I can do. Okay, I'm almost finished. And I'm just going to make sure my nose is sewn on everywhere. If it needs it anywhere else, just, you know, go put a stitch in. If you see somewhere where it needs to be secured a little more or anything like that. I feel like mine is done. So I'm going to go up under there and pull my yarn and just go through some stitches to come out through the side and clip my yarn, and I think we are done with Yoda. I think he is done. Alright, thank you for watching. I appreciate you for watching and subscribing and watching my videos and trying out my tutorials. Give me some feedback, and I'll talk to you all again real soon.